Hello, I'm Ylja and I play Rogue in the raiding team of Method. We decided to make this video to go over some changes for Rogue in the upcoming 7.1.5 patch, including the more important PvE changes to talents, abilities and the legendaries, to name a few things. So if that sounds like it would help you, make sure to watch the whole video to be at your best when 7.1.5 lands and when Nighthold is released. Before we start, it's worth noting that the PTR is ever changing and things may slightly change before the patch is released to live in early or mid-January, but nevertheless, let's get into it. One big thing I want to quickly mention is that secondary stat scaling is being reworked in the patch. You might see some secondary stat percentages go down a bit for you when the patch goes live. This was done so high item level gear would be more appealing to players. So save those high item level items in your bags, especially the necklaces and the rings, and compare them to your old ones when the patch comes. Most likely you will find an upgrade there. Now for the rogue stuff. First and foremost, Shroud of Concealment is back for all rogue specs. Now again you can share your stealthiness with your party or raid members. Maybe even skip some packs in that pesky Mythic Plus run that you want to do. Just make sure your party keeps up with your sneakiness. Blind is getting added and is finally available to the assassination spec as well. So now all rogue specs have that in their arsenal. Another big balancing change is that rogue is going to lose 5% critical strike chance across the board for all specs. This is the same for some other classes as well. It's not just a rogue thing. This and other changes are balanced out by giving flat damage increase to all three specs. Assassination and Outlaw are receiving a 7% damage increase, while Subtlety is getting a 12% one. There are numerous talent and ability changes to all specs. Let's go through some of the more important ones. Alacrity gives you 2% haste per stack and stacks up to 10 now. The total is still the same, the ramp up time is just faster. Nice quality of life change. Anticipation maximum total combo points is 10 now. This brings it back to the state it was in the previous expansions. It could be a potentially used for sub with the new set bonus in mind. In the same tier, the go-to talent for all specs currently, Deeper Stratagem, only increases finisher damage by 5%, down from 10%. This change hurts all specs, but don't worry, we'll survive this. The talent still looks good. Cheat Death will trigger now every 6 minutes, up from 2 minutes. This change is part of nerfing all similar abilities like Cheat Death, Cauterize for mages or Purgatory for DKs, for example. Feint's energy cost is increased from 20 to 35. Honestly, this change is okay in my books. Long time coming actually. Knowing the encounter and when to press Feint exactly is now more important than before. Assassination's Agonizing Poison proc chance is increased from 20% to 30%. This helps target switching and ramp up time a lot. Makes it much nicer to play AP in Mythic Plus, for example. Great quality of life change. Elaborate Planning is getting nerfed from 15% to 12%. The talent is still good, so don't panic. You're still going to be weaving that proc into the rotation, trying to get high uptime on it. As for Outlaw, it's going to lose 5% damage from Blade Flurry. It's getting decreased from 35% to 30%. I feel like Outlaw's strongest point was the good cleave and AoE, and now they're decreasing it. Interesting choice from Blizzard in my opinion. Subtlety's Master of Shadows talent is being nerfed just a bit. The energy gain being decreased from 30 to 25. This makes it that you have to pool energy just a bit longer before going into Shadow Dance. And on to the next topic. Love it or hate it, it's legendaries. First off the bat, there are 2 brand new items added to the legendary loot table for all rogue specs. First one being Mantle of the Master Assassin. It's a shoulder item and it gives, while stealth is active and for 6 seconds after breaking stealth, your critical strike chance is increased by 100%. The item is pretty straightforward. This can be activated mid-combat by using Vanish. Sadly, does not get activated by Shadow Dance from sub. Would have been too good. The second one is Kil'jaeden's Burning Wish. In addition being a stat stick trinket, it has an use ability which has 1 minute and 15 second cooldown, and it does around 400k fire damage to enemies within 10 yards of your target. The trinket offers okay burst AoE damage with a somewhat decent cooldown, as well as agility and secondary stats. First, when we saw this trinket into PTR, it did around 1 million damage per target. It has been tuned down quite a lot from that. Many powerful DPS legendaries are getting nerfed across all classes and specs, and Rogue is not an exception to this. One legendary that affects all specs is the Insignia of Ravenholdt. The damage is getting decreased from 20% to 12%. It's still powerful even after the nerf. The damage increase from the Assassination Braziers is getting lowered from 40% to 30%. Even with this decrease, they are still pretty potent, especially for progress. There are 2 changes for Outlaw legendaries. First one being the damage increase to pistol shot from the Braziers is getting decreased from 400% to 300%. They're still great for Outlaw overall. Just keep rolling the bones and hoping for the true bearing buff. The second one is the gloves. The damage is getting decreased from 70% to 65%. This change seems unnecessary and out of place to me. Maybe they revert it before the patch goes live. And lastly, the Subtlety God tier boots. It's getting a huge nerf. The amount of energy restored is getting decreased from 10 to 3 energy. Yet again, don't despair if you have them. The boots are still great even after this change. You know, just not God tier anymore. It's not all bad news as far as legendaries go. 2 of them are actually getting buffed. Bright-ass Xaverix Magnum Opus now says every 30 seconds gain Absorb Shield for 25% of your max HP for 30 seconds. In addition to this, it also gives haste as well as critical strike and mastery. Buffing the weakest legendary was much needed. Maybe now you won't get mocked as much as before if you're part of the very reputable Pride-S Club. The other one getting buffed is Cephus' Secret. It now procs from interrupts as well, and the haste granted is increased from 15% to 25%. This change makes it decent for Mythic Plus and even okay for some raid encounters which you can be interrupting certain abilities. All these buffs and nerfs to legendary items brings the damage output of all legendaries much closer to each other, shortening the gap between the best and the worst legendary, which is a good thing overall. Obviously, you still want to have 2 pure damage legendaries in use. Nobody wants to play the support rogue. Bringing it all together, what do all these changes mean overall for rogues then? We're going to be okay in damage and our utility kit is still great. That hasn't changed. I personally feel like Assassination is going to be a good progression spec for Nighthold. But in the end, keep on stabbing them with the sharp end of the weapon and play the spec you like the most. Well, that brings this video to an end. What do you think about the changes? Leave a comment below, and if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. If you got any questions, you can head over to my Twitch channel, which you can find both on screen right now and also in the description below. Feel free to ask anything and I'll respond when I can. I'll also take some time to respond to the YouTube comments if there's any questions there. Okay, this was Yliaja with Team Method. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in Nighthold.